This billionaire's mother pretended to be a cleaner just to test her son's fiancé. But what she found out will shock you. Before we start, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss this story. Grace Williams sat by the tall glass window of her mansion, sipping her morning tea. The world outside sparkled with luxury, servants moving about, gardeners trimming the rose hedges, the sound of a fountain whispering in the distance. She had everything money could buy: fame, fortune, and influence, but none of it mattered anymore. Her only son, Ethan, was her entire world. Ethan had fallen in love again. Grace wanted to be happy for him, but her heart wouldn't rest. The girl's name was Lana Cruz, beautiful, smart, and seemingly perfect. But Grace had seen women like her before, sweet smiles hiding sharp greed. Ever since her husband passed, Grace had made it her mission to protect Ethan from people who wanted his money, not his heart. And this time, her mother's instinct screamed louder than ever. That afternoon, Grace met with Mr. Dean, the family's loyal butler who'd served them for over 25 years. "Madam," he said softly, "your son seems very happy with this young woman. Are you sure you wish to test her?" Grace nodded slowly, her gaze firm. "I must. Ethan is too kind for his own good. If this woman truly loves him, she won't care who I am." Her plan was bold, almost foolish for someone of her status. She would disguise herself as a cleaner in Ethan's private mansion, the smaller estate he used when he wanted peace away from the main house. Ethan agreed to the idea reluctantly, pretending not to know her during the test. A week later, Grace stood outside the mansion's servant entrance, wearing plain clothes, a headscarf, and holding a cleaning bucket. No jewelry, no perfume, just a simple, humble look that made her unrecognizable. When Lana first saw her, she smiled politely. "Oh, a new cleaner," she said sweetly. "Nice to meet you." Her tone was friendly, at least for the first few hours. She seemed kind, generous, even asked Grace if she needed water. Grace almost felt guilty for doubting her. But as the days passed, little things began to show. Lana constantly talked about money, expensive vacations, cars, designer bags. She bragged about how Ethan's life was about to become even better once they married. She asked intrusive questions like, "So, do you know how rich Ethan's mother really is? Does she give him full access to her accounts?" Grace would just smile and shrug, pretending to be an ordinary maid. Inside, her heart sank a little each day. One evening, Grace overheard Lana talking on the phone in the hallway. Her voice was low but sharp, not the soft tone she used with Ethan. "Yes, baby, he totally believes I love him. I told you, we'll get the money soon. Just stay ready." Grace froze. Her hands trembled as she held the mop tighter. Who was she talking to? When Lana ended the call and turned around, she caught Grace staring. For a moment, their eyes met, and Grace saw something chilling in the young woman's smile. "Cleaner," Lana said coldly. "Next time, mind your own business." That night, Grace sat on the servant's bed, tears streaming down her face. She had hoped she was wrong. But now, she knew the truth. Her son's girlfriend was not only pretending, she was plotting. And the worst part? Ethan had no idea. The days turned into weeks, and Grace stayed quietly in her disguise. Every morning, she would sweep the marble floors and polish the crystal vases like any other maid. To the world, she was Maria, the quiet cleaner who barely spoke. But behind her calm face, Grace was watching everything. Every smile, every whisper, every shadow that crossed Lana's face. At first, Lana pretended to be kind. She'd compliment Grace's cleaning and sometimes even say, "You remind me of my late nanny. She was poor, but she worked hard." Grace would smile politely, hiding the ache in her chest. But soon, the sweetness faded. Lana started showing her real self. One morning, Grace arrived to find one of the younger maids, Clara, crying in the corner of the kitchen. Her hands were trembling as she tried to hide her tears. "What happened, dear?" Grace asked softly. Clara looked around to make sure no one was watching. "Miss Lana, she threw her coffee on me because it was too cold," she whispered. "And she said if I tell anyone, I'll lose my job." Grace's heart clenched. The fear in the girl's eyes was enough to tell her everything. Later that day, Grace saw it herself. Lana walked into the kitchen, heels clicking loudly. Her expression was sharp, irritated. "Maria," she snapped, "didn't I tell you to clean the chandelier?" Grace bowed slightly. "Yes, I was just about to." "Don't yes me. You people never do anything right," Lana interrupted. "If you can't clean, go back to the slums where you came from." The maids went silent. Grace said nothing, only lowered her head, but her hands tightened around the cloth. Her heart was boiling, but she had to endure. She was here to prove, not to fight. When Ethan came home later that evening, Lana changed completely. She greeted him with a warm smile, hugged him tightly, and whispered, "You've worked so hard today, darling." Grace watched from the shadows. The transformation was chilling. One moment, a tyrant, the next, an angel. That night, Grace heard whispers again. Lana was in the study, pacing back and forth. Grace crept closer, staying behind the slightly open door. "Yes, Marcus," Lana said into the phone. Her voice was low but full of excitement. "He has no idea. I already got $50,000 from him for that fake charity idea. He'll give more soon. Then we leave this place forever, with everything." There was a pause, then a man's voice laughed faintly through the phone. "You're brilliant, babe. Just keep him wrapped around your finger. We'll be sipping cocktails in Spain before he even knows is broke." Grace's chest tightened. She covered her mouth to stop herself from gasping. Lana was stealing from Ethan, and planning to leave the country with another man. The next morning, Grace sent a short, hidden message from her old phone to Ethan. "She's lying to you. Keep pretending. Let her show her true colors." Ethan's reply came quickly. "Understood. Stay safe, Mom. I'll handle things soon." But things only grew worse. Lana started demanding more money, saying she wanted to start a new business before marriage. She pretended to be stressed, crying fake tears until Ethan agreed to transfer another large sum. Every time he gave her money, she secretly sent it to Marcus. Grace noticed her spending: new jewelry, new clothes, luxury bags. For business meetings, she claimed. And her temper, it grew darker each day. She began shouting at the maids over the smallest mistakes, knocking things off tables, threatening to fire them all. One afternoon, she threw a vase that shattered near Grace's feet. "Next time you make me repeat myself, I'll make sure you never work again," she hissed. Grace stayed calm, her eyes cold. "Yes, she said quietly, while in her mind she whispered, "You have no idea who you're talking to." The mansion slowly became a place of fear. The maids whispered in corners, crying silently when Lana wasn't looking. Even the butler, Mr. Dean, avoided crossing her path. At night, Grace could barely sleep. Her mind replayed every cruel word, every lie. She knew she had to gather proof, not just to stop Lana, but to protect her son from heartbreak and ruin. So she began recording. Every insult, every secret phone call, every moment Lana revealed her true self. Until one evening, Grace overheard something that made her blood run cold. Lana was sitting by the balcony, her voice tense. "Listen, Marcus," she whispered. "He's planning to go to the bank tomorrow. That's when you'll send your boys. Make it look like a robbery. I'll make sure the alarm is off. Once it's done, we meet at the airport." Grace's hand trembled. Robbers? They were planning to attack Ethan, her son. That night, Grace tried to warn Ethan again, but before she could leave her room, Lana appeared at the door, smiling, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Maria," she said softly, "I heard someone was listening to my calls again." Grace froze. "If I ever find out it's you," Lana continued, her tone now sharp as glass. "You won't make it to tomorrow. Do you understand?" Grace nodded slowly, hiding her fear behind calm eyes. "Yes, When Lana left, Grace sank to her knees, shaking. For the first time, she felt real danger, not just for Ethan, but for herself too. But her love for her son was stronger than her fear. She would not run. Not yet. She wiped her tears, picked up her small hidden camera, and whispered to herself, "You can destroy my disguise, but you'll never destroy a mother's love." And that night, Grace stayed awake, waiting, listening, and praying that the truth would reveal itself before it was too late. The night was heavy with silence. The wind whispered against the tall windows of the mansion, brushing the curtains like soft ghosts. Grace sat by the edge of her narrow servant bed, her hands trembling over the small phone she held. She could still hear Lana's voice echoing in her head. "Once it's done, we meet at the airport." Her heart pounded so loudly she thought someone might hear it. She wanted to scream, to burst into Ethan's room and tell him everything, but she couldn't. She had to be careful. One wrong move, and Lana might realize that Maria the cleaner was not who she seemed. Grace opened her phone and typed a message with shaking fingers. "She's planning something terrible. Don't come to the mansion tomorrow. Stay away. Let me handle this." She pressed send. For a moment, she sat in the dark, listening to her own breathing. Outside, the mansion lights glowed faintly across the garden. The same lights that once made her proud now felt like cold watchers of the night. The next morning, Lana acted as if nothing had happened. She wore a white silk dress, humming softly as she ate breakfast by the window. The picture of peace. But her eyes, sharp, restless, betrayed her calm. "Maria," she called sweetly, not looking up from her plate, "make sure you clean the study before noon. Ethan will be home early." Grace bowed slightly. "Yes, Her voice was steady, but inside she was trembling. She knew Ethan wouldn't be coming home, not today. He had already replied to her message the night before. "I'll alert security quietly. Be safe, Mom. You're stronger than you think." Grace clung to that message like a prayer. Hours passed. Lana made several phone calls, moving around the house like a restless cat. Grace pretended to dust furniture, always within earshot. She caught fragments of words: "the gate, midnight, he won't suspect." Every syllable confirmed what Grace feared. Lana was working with men who were going to attack the mansion that night. By evening, the weather changed. Dark clouds gathered, covering the sky like a curtain. Rain began to fall, slow, steady, relentless. Grace was in the kitchen, pretending to scrub the floor. The other maids had gone quiet again, moving quickly, avoiding Lana's gaze. Everyone could sense her strange tension that day. Suddenly, Lana stormed into the kitchen, holding her phone. Her face was pale, her voice sharp. "Has anyone seen my bracelet? The diamond one?" No one answered. Grace kept cleaning, her head low. "You!" Lana barked, pointing at her. "Maria, you were cleaning my room earlier, weren't you?" Grace looked up calmly. "Yes, but I didn't." "Liar." Lana snapped. "If I find out you touched my things, you'll regret it. I'll call security myself." Grace didn't move. She could see in Lana's eyes that this wasn't about a bracelet. It was fear. The kind that comes before someone does something reckless. Later that night, Lana dressed in black and packed a small handbag. Grace watched from the shadows as she slipped a set of keys into her purse. Not house keys, but the ones to the safe Ethan had shown her once before. Grace knew this was it. The plan was in motion. The storm outside grew louder. Rain hammered the windows. Thunder rolled through the sky like distant drums. Around midnight, Grace heard the faint sound of a car engine, then another. Two dark vans stopped near the back gate of the mansion. Her breath caught in her throat. From the window, she saw silhouettes, men in dark clothes moving toward the service door. She grabbed her phone, texting Ethan one word. Now. Then she slipped quietly out of her room and down the hallway. Every creak of the wooden floor made her heart race. From the living room, she could hear Lana whispering on the phone again. "They're here," she murmured. "He's asleep upstairs. Take the documents and the jewelry. Nothing else. I'll meet you in 10 minutes. Grace hid behind a tall curtain, watching. Her hand shook, but her mind was clear. Moments later, the door burst open. The men entered, not with loudness, but with the quiet confidence of people who had done this before. Lana led them to the study, her face pale but determined. "The safe is behind that painting," she whispered. "Hurry." As they worked, she glanced around nervously. That's when she saw Grace standing in the doorway. Their eyes met. For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. Then Lana's expression turned cold, almost deadly. "You again," she hissed. "I told you to stay out of my business." Grace stepped forward, her voice firm though her hands trembled. "I know what you're doing, Lana. And it's over." Lana laughed softly, a sound with no warmth. "Over? You think anyone will believe a cleaner?" She turned to the men. "Get her out of here." Grace took a step back, heart pounding, but before the men could move, a sharp sound split the air, sirens. Loud, echoing through the rain. Lana spun around in shock. What? The front doors flew open. Flashlights cut through the darkness as police officers rushed in. Behind them, Ethan appeared, soaked from the rain but calm, his expression unreadable. Lana froze. The men tried to run, but were quickly caught. "Ethan," she cried. "It's not what it looks like. They forced me." Ethan said nothing. He looked straight at her, then at Grace, still standing near the curtain, trembling but strong. The officers led the men out one by one. The storm outside began to fade, leaving only the sound of rain dripping from the roof. Ethan finally spoke, his voice quiet but sharp as glass. "I know everything, Lana. Every call. Every message. Every lie." Her face went white. No, you can't." "My mother heard you," Ethan continued. "She saw everything. You played your game well. But you forgot one thing." He stepped closer, eyes burning with quiet fury. "You can't deceive someone who already knows what love feels like." For a long moment, there was silence. Lana stood there, trembling, her face pale, her mask completely gone. Then she whispered, brokenly, "Ethan, I really loved you." He shook his head slowly. "No. You loved what I have, not who I am." The police took her away, her cries echoing faintly through the halls as the front doors closed behind her. When the mansion was quiet again, Ethan turned to Grace. The rain had stopped, and a pale light began to rise outside. She looked at him with tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I wanted to protect you, but I should have trusted you sooner." He hugged her tightly. "You did what any mother would do. And because of you, I still have my life, and my peace." Grace smiled weakly, resting her head on his shoulder. The weight she'd carried for weeks finally lifted. As dawn broke, she walked into the living room, picked up a broom, and began to sweep the shattered pieces of glass from the floor. The sound of the bristles was soft, rhythmic, like the heartbeat of a home finding peace again. Days passed after the arrest. The mansion was quieter now, too quiet. The heavy scent of betrayal still hung in the air. Grace had returned to her old self, no longer wearing her disguise, but she chose to stay away from public eyes. Ethan had handled the press with calm dignity. To the world, it was just another scandal involving money and deceit, but inside the mansion walls, it had left deep scars. Lana, meanwhile, sat in a cold holding cell, her mind racing. Her perfect life, her rich fiancé, her luxury dreams, had vanished overnight. But she wasn't broken. Not yet. She kept replaying that night over and over in her head. The way the police stormed in. The look on Ethan's face. The woman who had stood silently in the shadows. That cleaner. There was something about her. The way Ethan looked at her afterward. Something didn't fit. Who was she? Raincloud a week later. Lana was released on conditional bail. Her lawyer was well-connected, and her charm still had power. But the world outside wasn't the same anymore. Her name was trending for all the wrong reasons. Her social circle avoided her, her apartment was seized, and the media camped outside her gate. So she decided to disappear, or at least, to fix what went wrong. One rainy evening, dressed in dark clothes and a scarf that hid her face, Lana returned to the mansion she once called home. She knew Ethan wouldn't be there. He'd gone abroad for a business meeting. But she wanted to see him, and that made. The gates were locked, but Lana knew every security blind spot. She slipped in through the garden and entered the house through the kitchen door. Everything inside was spotless. Grace's doing, as always. The faint smell of lavender filled the air. Then Lana heard footsteps upstairs, slow, soft, familiar. She followed them. At the top of the stairs, she saw her. The maid. Dressed elegantly this time, not in uniform, but in a light blue gown. Her posture, her grace, her quiet confidence. It was different now. Grace turned slowly, sensing she wasn't alone. Their eyes met. For a long, heavy moment, neither woman spoke. "You," Lana breathed, her voice trembling. "You're still here." Grace didn't flinch. "This is my home." Lana frowned. "Your home? What are you talking about? You're just a—" Her words trailed off. Her eyes fell on a family portrait hanging on the wall, Ethan as a child, a young man beside him, and the woman standing proudly between them. The same face. The same calm eyes. Lana's heart stopped. She turned slowly, her voice breaking. "No, no, that can't be you." Grace's expression softened. "Yes, Lana. It's me." Lana stumbled back, gripping the railing. You're his mother? The billionaire's mother?" Grace nodded quietly. Lana's breath quickened. She felt the walls closing in, the memories of her own cruelty flashing before her eyes, the insults, the threats, the time she'd mocked her. I didn't know," she stammered. "You should have told me." Grace's tone was calm, but her words were sharp as glass. "Would it have changed how you treated me?" Lana fell silent. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Grace stepped closer, her voice quiet but heavy with emotion. "I wanted to see who you truly were. Not the version you show when cameras are on. Not the one who smiles for money. The real you." Tears welled in Lana's eyes, partly from guilt, partly from fear. You planned all this." Grace nodded. "For my son's sake." Lana turned away, shaking her head in disbelief. "You can't do this. You can't judge me like that. You don't know what I've been through." Grace interrupted softly. "You're right. I don't know your pain. But pain doesn't give you the right to destroy someone else's peace." The silence that followed was deafening. The rain outside had stopped, but the tension in the room felt heavier than before. Lana's voice broke. "So what happens now? You're going to send me to jail again? Tell the world how evil I am." Grace looked at her for a long moment, then shook her head slowly. "No. I don't need revenge. I already saw what kind of person you are. And I believe in something worse than punishment, truth." Lana frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" Grace turned away. "Tomorrow, you'll find out." Sunrise the next morning. Lana woke up to chaos. Her phone, which she'd left on overnight, was buzzing non-stop. News headlines everywhere. Ethan Williams speaks publicly about betrayal, forgiveness, and family strength. The billionaire's mother revealed to have gone undercover. Videos flooded social media. Ethan standing on a stage, thanking his mother's courage for saving him from manipulation. Reporters surrounded his mansion gates. The world knew everything now, not from a scandal, but from the truth. Lana stared at the screen, her heart pounding. She thought she would feel anger, but all she felt was emptiness. The woman she despised had already won. Grace didn't destroy her. She didn't have to. She'd simply told the truth, and the world did the rest. That night, Lana sat alone in a cheap motel room. She looked at her reflection in the cracked mirror, mascara smudged, hair tangled, eyes hollow. For the first time, she didn't recognize herself. "Maria," she whispered softly, remembering the maid she had mocked. "Grace." A tear slipped down her cheek. "I didn't just lose him. I lost myself." She turned off the light, curled into the bed, and let the darkness swallow her whole. It had been 6 months since that night. The night rain turned from a whisper to a storm that washed away all illusions. The Williams mansion had changed. The laughter that once echoed in the marble halls had returned, soft and genuine. Ethan was busier than ever, but he smiled more often now. Grace spent her days running her charity foundation, helping single mothers, teaching young women to recognize true worth beyond wealth. To the world, it seemed like the Williams family had finally found peace. But peace, as Grace knew, was always fragile. Sunrise, a different city. In a small apartment on the outskirts of the city, Lana Cruz lived a life no one would have imagined for her. Gone were the designer clothes, the chauffeur, the gold necklaces. She worked quietly as an assistant in a small flower shop, a job she found through a community rehabilitation program. Every morning, she arranged bouquets, smiling faintly as she inhaled the scent of lilies and roses. Sometimes, when customers thanked her, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, purpose. But at night, when the city lights dimmed, guilt crept in like a shadow. She'd sit by the window, staring at the moon, her hands clasped together as if in silent prayer. "Maybe they'll never forgive me," she whispered once. "But I have to try." Raincloud hashed the visit. One quiet afternoon, Lana stood outside the tall black gates of the Williams mansion. She wore a plain gray dress and carried nothing but a letter. Her heart raced as she pressed the intercom. A guard's voice came through. "Who's there?" "Lana Cruz," she said softly. "I'm here to see Mrs. Williams." The silence that followed was long and cold. Then the gates slowly opened. Grace was in the garden when she saw her. For a moment, the world seemed to stop. The past rushed back, the insults, the lies, the fear. But now, the woman standing before her wasn't the same Lana she remembered. Her hair was tied back neatly. Her makeup was gone. Her eyes, once filled with fire and arrogance, now carried only quiet pain. "You shouldn't be here," Grace said quietly. "I know," Lana whispered. "But please, I just need 5 minutes." Grace hesitated, then nodded toward a bench beneath a magnolia tree. They sat in silence for a while. The air was heavy with unspoken words. Finally, Lana spoke. "I came to apologize. Not to defend myself, not to ask for anything. Just to say I'm sorry." Her voice broke. "I was lost, Grace. I thought love was power, that money could heal what I didn't have. But I was wrong. You were right about everything." Grace's eyes softened slightly, but she said nothing. "After I left here," Lana continued, "I lost everything. My friends, my reputation, even myself. But maybe that's what I needed, to understand what love really means." She reached into her purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. "This is for Ethan," she said. "Please give it to him. I don't expect him to forgive me, but I needed him to know that I'm not that person anymore." Grace took the letter slowly. Their hands brushed for a second, cold, trembling, human. For a moment, Grace saw not the manipulative woman who hurt her son, but a broken soul trying to start again. Still, her mother's instinct warned her to be careful. "People change," Grace said quietly, "but trust takes time. You hurt him deeply, Lana. You hurt me. Do you understand that? Tears filled Lana's eyes. Every day. It haunts me, Grace. But I'll wait, even if forgiveness never comes. Grace looked at her, searching for any sign of deceit. She found none. Only sadness. Sun with small cloud hashed that evening. Ethan came home from work just as the sun was setting. Grace was in the living room, holding the letter Lana had given her. She came, Grace said softly. Ethan froze. Lana. Grace nodded and handed him the letter. Ethan unfolded it carefully. The handwriting was familiar, neat, precise, but trembling. Ethan, I don't deserve your forgiveness, and I won't ask for it. But I wanted you to know that I finally understand what love means. It's not taking, it's giving. You gave me kindness I didn't earn. Your mother gave me lessons I didn't deserve. I ruined everything, but I'll spend my life trying to be better. Not for anyone's approval, but for myself. Lana. When Ethan finished reading, the paper shook slightly in his hands. He looked at his mother. Do you believe her? Grace sighed. I think she believes herself. That's a start. Ethan leaned back on the couch, staring at the ceiling. I don't know what I feel anymore. Anger, pity, maybe both. Then give it time, Grace said. Time has a way of showing who people really are. Crescent moon later that night. Lana walked home under the quiet city lights. She felt lighter, not forgiven, but freer. As she passed a group of children laughing by the roadside, she smiled faintly. For the first time in years, she felt something warm inside, hope. Behind her, unseen, a black car was parked at the corner. Inside sat a man in a dark suit, speaking softly into his phone. I found her, he said. She's still in the city. He listened for a moment, then nodded. Understood. We move when you say. He started the car, following her slowly as she disappeared into the misty streetlights. The night was cool and silent. Streetlights blinked faintly along the old road as Lana walked home from her evening shift at the flower shop. Her mind was still heavy with memories of the visit to Grace, of the forgiveness she didn't deserve but still hoped for. She reached her small apartment, unlocked the door, and sighed. The place was quiet, just a single bed, a cracked mirror, and a little potted plant by the window. A far cry from the luxury she once lived in. She placed her handbag on the table, and just as she turned to close the curtains, she froze. A car was parked across the street. Black. Tinted windows. The same one she had noticed 2 nights in a row. Her heart skipped. No, she whispered. It can't be. She shut the curtains, but her hands were shaking. Rain cloud hashed the next day. The rain fell gently as she walked to work. But as she turned the corner near the alley by the flower shop, someone grabbed her wrist. She gasped and spun around. It was Marcus. Her ex. The man who once whispered promises of freedom and forever. The man she sent thousands of dollars to, money stolen from Ethan. He hadn't changed much, except for the coldness in his eyes. His hair was messy, his jaw unshaven, and there was a faint scar near his temple. Lana, he said, his voice low. Long time. Her pulse quickened. Marcus, what are you doing here? He smirked, looking around. You disappeared. Didn't even say goodbye after everything we did. Everything you did, she snapped. You used me. He laughed, shaking his head. You wanted the same thing I did, baby. Money. Freedom. Don't act holy now. Lana felt her chest tighten. You lied to me, Marcus. You told me we'd start over, that we'd travel, build something together. He stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. And you believed that. The words hit her like a slap. You were never going to take me with you, were you? She whispered. Marcus shrugged. You were useful. That's all. But it's over now. I've got a life, a good one. So do yourself a favor and forget me. Lana's voice trembled. You think I can forget? You ruined me. I lost everything because of you. For the first time, Marcus looked uneasy. He glanced around, lowering his voice. Keep your voice down. My wife lives here. She's due any day now. Lana's eyes widened. Your wife? He sighed, annoyed. Yeah. We are happy. So don't start your drama here. She took a step back, her throat tightening. You have a wife. You have a child coming. And you made me betray the only good people I ever had. Marcus crossed his arms. You made your own choices, Lana. Don't blame me for your greed. She felt tears burn her eyes. I loved you. He smirked. You loved the dream. Same as I did. He turned to walk away, but she grabbed his sleeve. Marcus, I sent you money. Everything I stole from Ethan, you promised. He yanked his arm free, his face hardening. That money's gone. Get over it. Her voice broke into a sob. You said you needed it to start our life. Marcus glanced back, eyes cold as ice. I did. My life. With her. He walked away without another word, disappearing into the rain. Lana stood there, shaking. People passed her by, but she didn't move. Her tears mixed with the rain, running down her face as her knees gave way. I gave up everything, she whispered. For nothing. That night, Lana sat alone in her apartment, staring at the letter Grace had given her back after Ethan read it. She opened it and read her own words, words written by a woman trying to change. She began to sob. Not the soft, quiet kind. The kind that comes from the soul, when there's nothing left to lose. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Stay quiet, Lana. Don't tell anyone about me or the money. You owe me that. Her hand shook. She knew it was Marcus. She typed a reply but stopped midway. Then she deleted it, turned off her phone, and pressed her forehead against the wall. I owe no one anything anymore, she whispered through tears. Sunrise a week later. Lana decided to leave the city. She packed her few clothes, took one last look around her apartment, and stepped outside. At the corner of the street, she saw a small cafe. She stopped for coffee, just a small moment of peace before starting over again. Inside, she heard laughter, a young couple sitting by the window. The woman was heavily pregnant, smiling as her husband gently touched her belly. Lana froze. It was Marcus and his wife. They didn't see her. She just stood there, watching. For a moment, anger flickered in her eyes, then faded into something else. Pity. Acceptance. She smiled sadly. That should have been my happiness, she murmured, but I destroyed it with my own hands. She turned and walked out, leaving the cafe door swinging behind her. Outside, the wind brushed her face softly. The sun peeked through the clouds, faint but warm. Lana whispered to herself, maybe I can't fix the past, but I can stop running from it. And with that, she took her first step toward the bus station, not as the Lana who once dreamed of gold and power, but as a woman finally learning what peace felt like. Morning sunlight streamed through the high windows of the new Ethan and Grace Foundation headquarters. Cameras flashed. Reporters filled the lobby. The air hummed with nervous energy. Grace stood beside her son, elegant but tired. It had been months of rebuilding, months of trying to believe that love and hard work could erase the past. She looked at Ethan, who adjusted his tie and whispered, "We'll get through this launch, Mom. Then maybe things will finally calm down." She smiled faintly. Maybe. But calm never lasts long in stories like this. By afternoon, phones began to ring. The PR manager rushed into the conference room, pale. There's a problem. Someone leaked a story about the Foundation's accounts. Ethan frowned. What kind of story? She turned the tablet toward him. The headline burned across the screen. Billionaire's charity under fire. Fraud linked to former fiance, Lana Roberts. Grace's hand trembled as she reached for the tablet. This can't be true. Ethan stood frozen. We haven't even opened the donation channels yet. How? More headlines popped up. Screenshots of bank transfers, fake messages, doctored signatures. All pointing to Lana. Grace whispered, "It's her again. I knew she'd bring more pain." Ethan's voice broke. "No. I don't think she'd do this. Not anymore." But the cameras were already outside. Reporters shouting. Investors withdrawing support. In the chaos, no one noticed the man standing across the street, watching from a black car, Marcus. He smiled coldly and started his engine. Miles away, in a small-town market, Lana balanced a basket of groceries and glanced at the television in a store window. Breaking news. Ex-socialite Lana Roberts wanted for questioning in charity scandal. Her hands went numb. Apples rolled across the pavement. People around her murmured, pointing. She turned and ran. Inside her tiny apartment, she slammed the door and gasped for breath. Her reflection in the cracked mirror stared back, frightened, ashamed, furious. "Marcus," she whispered. "You couldn't let me have peace." She opened the drawer, pulled out an old phone, and scrolled through saved voicemails. His voice, months ago, threatening her to stay quiet. Proof. She looked toward the window, tears shining. "I swore I'd never go back, but I can't let them suffer for what I didn't do." She packed her bag, took one deep breath, and caught the midnight bus to the city. 2 nights later, the Foundation's charity gala filled the mansion ballroom with soft music and expensive smiles hiding quiet panic. Grace forced herself to greet donors. Ethan tried to focus on speeches. Cameras rolled. Then the front doors opened. Lana stepped in. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Gone were the diamonds and designer dresses. She wore a plain white blouse, black trousers, and a look of quiet determination. Security moved toward her, but she raised her hand. "Please. Just 5 minutes." Grace's voice was icy. "You shouldn't be here, Miss Roberts." Lana faced her calmly. "I know. But I didn't do this." Ethan took a hesitant step forward. "Then who did?" She pulled a flash drive from her pocket. "Marcus. The man I once sent your money to. He forged everything. I have proof." A ripple of disbelief ran through the room. Ethan motioned for the security to wait. "Show me." Lana handed him the drive. "Play the last file." On the projector, Marcus's voice crackled through the speakers. "If you talk, Lana, I'll make sure everyone thinks you're still the thief. I've got fake transfers ready. 1 click and your name's done." Gasps. Cameras flashed. Grace's face softened in shock and guilt. But before anyone could react, the lights flickered. A crash at the back door. Marcus himself, trying to snatch the evidence. Guards rushed in, shouting. Guests screamed. Lana turned and saw Grace stumble backward as someone shoved past her. Without thinking, Lana lunged and caught Grace's arm just as she slipped near the stairs. For a heartbeat, time stopped, the same 2 women who once despised each other frozen in an embrace. Grace whispered, trembling, "You saved me." Lana's voice shook. "Maybe this time I finally did something right." Police sirens wailed outside. Marcus was dragged out, cursing and shouting, "You'll never change, Lana. You'll always be trash." She looked straight at him. "Maybe. But I'm not your trash anymore." The ballroom slowly emptied. Reporters were gone. Silence fell. Grace sat beside Lana on the grand staircase. The night air drifted through the open doors. Ethan watched from a few steps away, unsure if he should speak. Grace finally broke the silence. "You didn't have to come back. You could have hidden." Lana's smile was tired but honest. "Hiding is what ruined me before. This time I had to face it." Ethan stepped forward. "You saved her, and you saved our name. I don't know what happens next, but thank you." Lana nodded, eyes glistening. Don't thank me. Just keep helping people who need it. That's how you'll know I meant it. Grace reached for her hand, slowly, uncertainly. Maybe you really have changed, she whispered. Lana squeezed her fingers gently. I hope so. Later, as Lana left the mansion, the same driver who once mocked her now opened the gate and said softly, Good night, She smiled faintly. Good night. Grace and Ethan stood on the balcony, watching her walk away. No words, just quiet understanding. The camera would follow Lana into the city lights, alone, but finally free of lies.